Dental amalgam, misleadingly marketed as silver fillings, is a material containing 50% mercury, a neurotoxin that can harm human health, pollute the environment, poison the fish, and endanger dental professionals.
Hi, I'm Charlie Brown, Executive Director of Consumers for Dental Choice, the nonprofit advocacy group working to end the use of dental amalgam. And we've got a great track record of successes, fighting and winning for mercury-free dentistry.
Step by step, Consumers for Dental Choice shifted the entire paradigm in dentistry. 2 decades ago, only 3% of dentists were mercury-free, and virtually no consumers knew that amalgam was mainly mercury. Indeed, that crucial fact was hidden from them. So we went to work. We abolished the gag rule that prohibited dentists from discussing amalgam's mercury with their patients. When the California Dental Board resisted, we persuaded the state to shut them down and start over with a new dental board open-minded to mercury-free dentistry. We protected dentist licenses from Arizona to Alabama, from Florida to Minnesota, from Connecticut to Texas. We even won back dental licenses of persecuted mercury-free dentists in California and Iowa. In New England and in Philadelphia, we succeeded in gaining laws requiring amalgam fact sheets for patients. We helped convince the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency to mandate amalgam waste control measures. Most significant of all, at the Minamata Convention on Mercury, we outworked and outsmarted the World Dental Federation and gained a strong anti-amalgam plank in the Minamata Convention on Mercury.
But looming was the one major barrier to mercury-free dentistry in the United States, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, the FDA.
The law was with us, but it was being ignored. FDA had a legal duty to classify amalgam, that is, develop a rule to regulate it. But for decades, FDA dodged this responsibility. For that reason, Consumers for Dental Choice had to sue FDA to classify amalgam. So I did, and I won. We obtained a settlement that required FDA to release an amalgam rule.
Unfortunately, the rule that FDA came out with was abysmal. It did nothing to protect the public, even children, from this mercury product. It even urged an increase in amalgam use.
But we had moved the ball forward because now we had an FDA rule to challenge. With much of the Minamata process in motion and much of the international work in high gear, it was time for a fresh strategy back here in Washington. In the winter of 2017-18, we devised a 5-pronged program to convince FDA to change its amalgam policy, knowing it would be as laborious and challenging a process as the 3 intense years negotiating the Minamata Convention on Mercury. To get FDA's attention, we mobilized major environmental organizations because better than anyone, they understood how harmful mercury is. We enlisted 50 groups representing the environment, parents, consumers, public health, environmental justice, Native Americans, people with disabilities, to sign on to the Chicago Declaration to End Dental Industry Mercury Use, which we unveiled at the University of Illinois School of Public Health in Chicago in April 2018. This Chicago Declaration called on FDA to act to phase out amalgam use, especially starting with children, pregnant women, and breastfeeding mothers.
Then we sent it to FDA, and it got us a meeting with the top officials of FDA's Center for Devices.
It was quite a room full. About 15 FDA officials and about 15 members of our team were in this big conference room, plus about 10 more members of our team on the phone from around the country. On that day, the process to change FDA's mind to bring the science to the American consumer had begun. Having reached the top of the agency, Consumers for Dental Choice could submit scientific studies that someone at FDA would read. So we presented FDA with the data and with the new information. First, we showed that mercury from dental amalgam does contribute to total mercury in the body, and there is a correlation between number of amalgam fillings and the amount of mercury in the body. Second, we brought scientific evidence showing that metallic mercury converts to organic methylmercury, which can be absorbed easily and is in the mouth and in the gut and can cross the blood-brain barrier. Third, we demonstrated that amalgam appears to be disproportionately used in low-income children, children of color, and other more vulnerable populations that are likely to be exposed to more mercury through environmental exposures as well as amalgam fillings. Finally, we presented FDA with studies showing there are good alternatives to amalgam available at a reasonable price.
As a result of its review of the scientific literature, FDA flipped its position on this major issue.
FDA now recognizes evidence that shows once dental amalgam is implanted in the human body, its elemental mercury can convert to toxic methylmercury, the same type of mercury that FDA and EPA warns about in fish. Before that point, FDA had denied it. Of course, this mercury contributes to total mercury body burden in humans, and even at low levels of exposure, amalgam's mercury can cross the blood-brain barrier and raise concerns about toxic effects on the neurological system. And it can cross the placenta, doing a lifetime of damage to a child. We showed FDA that a growing number of countries, including countries with people at high caries risk, lower income people, and other people with a diverse array of circumstances, have already made significant progress in phasing out amalgam use. Indeed, today, a number of other countries, notably Italy and the Philippines, have set an end date for the end of amalgam use. I want you to hear from some of the global leaders Consumers for Dental Choice works with in our coalition, the World Alliance for Mercury-Free Dentistry.
The Tanzania guidelines adopted this year by our Ministry of Health ends amalgam in just 3 years for all children and for all women of childbearing age. The Tanzania guidelines will protect future generations of children from mercury toxicity. They serve a role model for Africa and for the entire world.
The European Union banned amalgam use in children under age 15 and for pregnant women and breastfeeding mothers as of July 1st, 2018. It starts Europe moving to a phase out for all. It is being noticed around the world. The United States Food and Drug Administration is paying close heed to what the European Union has done.
India, the world's largest democracy, has actively begun to transition to mercury-free dentistry. The Indian Armed Forces, the third largest in the world, never uses amalgam. Its thousands of dentists provide mercury-free dentistry to millions of their soldiers, sailors, airmen, of which I am also one. The largest employer of mankind, the Indian Railways, is also transitioning fast towards mercury-free dentistry.
In Vietnam last year, our Ministry of Health told to all dentists and all provincial health department offices to stop using dental amalgam for children under 15, pregnant women, and lactating women by 1st April 2019. It further called for a roadmap to stop using amalgam in dentistry. Our tour of largest dental hospitals in Hanoi and in Ho Chi Minh City are entirely mercury-free.
In Europe, 4 countries have announced a date to end the use of dental amalgam: Ireland, Slovakia, the Czech Republic, and Finland. In September 2019, the French territory of New Caledonia announced an immediate ban on the use of dental amalgam. As a mercury-free dentist for over 4 decades, I know what an important step that is for the health of the public, the dental team, and the environment. Help us win the final battle against dental mercury.
On 21st August 2019, Government of Nepal, Ministry of Health and Population announced the phase out of amalgam in Nepal in 2 steps. First, complete ban on the use of amalgam for children under 15 years, pregnant and breastfeeding mothers. Second, amalgam is complete phased out on a 5-year timetable frame for all. Nepal is the rooftop of the world in the Himalayas, so the water that flows to India, China and Southeast Asia will become cleaner.
Dental schools in Africa, such as University Félix Houphouët-Boigny in Abidjan, Côte d'Ivoire, Gamal Abdel Nasser in Conakry, Guinea, and all federal universities of Nigeria are shifting their curriculum to mercury-free dentistry. It means that the next generation of African dentists will be trained as mercury-free dentists. Mercury-free dentistry from dream to reality.
The government of Suriname in South America determined that mercury amalgam is practically no longer used in Surinamese dentistry. So, the government took the logical next step and announced its plan to completely ban the use of mercury amalgam.
6 years ago, in our island state of Mauritius, the Ministry of Health and Quality of Life ended amalgam use for pregnant women and for children under the age of 10. This generation of children now avoids starting out their lives with the unnecessary burden of mercury amalgam, and our island is much cleaner without so much mercury waste.
Nigeria ranked facing down amalgam use as its second highest priority for action and announced its plan of amalgam use discontinued for vulnerable populations. The Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission, an agency of the federal government responsible for consumer rights, then developed a patient brochure. This is to be made available to dental clinics, dental schools, and hospitals nationwide. This document advised that amalgam is not recommended for children and pregnant women. It urges parents, patients to choose a mercury filling like composite, resin, or glass ionomer.
In 2018, the Moldovan parliament passed a law to prohibit the production, placing on the market, and use of mercury and its compounds in dental amalgam. And there are no exemptions. Amalgam use is not anymore in this Southeast European country.
In May 2020, the Secretary of Health of the Philippines signed the Administrative Order Guidelines on the phase-out of mercury use in dental restorative procedures. This order bans amalgam use right now for children under age 14, for pregnant women and breastfeeding mothers, and for persons with compromised kidney or immune systems. The order provides a comprehensive policy in the elimination of dental amalgam in the country and sets forth guidelines governing the importation, manufacture, distribution, and sale of dental amalgam, and establishes health and safety guidelines in the handling, use, storage, and disposal of dental amalgams among dental workers and students and patients.
The Bangladesh Dental Society signed a Memorandum of Understanding of a non-profit group, ESDO, that ends the use of amalgam in children and pregnant women and agrees to the phase out of amalgam in 2020. The Bangladesh Dental Society has first cited leadership whose goal to end all mercury use in dentistry, to protect patients and children, to protect the dentist and dental worker, and to protect the great rivers that run through our country.
Bangladesh Army Dental Corps stopped buying dental amalgam in January 2018. A decision circulated among the armed forces, including Air Force, Navy, and the Border Guard Bangladesh. About 1.5 million people under treatment, including the family members of our soldier. Every single one, our soldier and their family, now get the mercury-free dentistry.
I started 1977. We were a handful of people. We got amalgam stopped first in Norway and then in Sweden. Now, when I see people from all over the world, it's a fantastic work that Charlie has done. From a handful of people working with it here to a world organization in 10 years that's grown fast and moving all over the world. It's fantastic to see you. Good luck to all of you.
At the Minamata Convention on Mercury meetings, the World Alliance for Mercury-Free Dentistry, created from scratch only a decade ago, is now a powerhouse.
Our worldwide campaign had real successes. Ending amalgam on every continent for children or for the military, for the pregnant women, in the hospitals, in the public programs. Some countries phased out amalgam altogether. So we went to the U.S. Food and Drug Administration and said, it's time for you to catch up with Europe, catch up with the world.
To get FDA to act, we knew we had to show them that the public supports our efforts to end amalgam use. We took a number of steps to link the public with FDA. Consumers for Dental Choice had an online petition on change.org explaining that since the European Union had ended amalgam for children under 15, pregnant women, breastfeeding mothers, FDA should do the same. Over 80,000 people signed on to that petition. Our board member, attorney Johan Worley, presented this petition to the FDA top brass in person at that big August 2018 meeting. Second, when FDA officially asked for written public comments, Consumers for Dental Choice mobilized the public to participate. As a result, FDA has been flooded with hundreds of comments from both health professionals and consumers supporting mercury-free dentistry.
Consumers for Dental Choice deeply appreciates you who submitted comments to FDA, you who signed our petition. And let me assure you, your voice was heard.
With all this organizational support, scientific evidence, grassroots activism, and international accomplishment, Consumers for Dental Choice had gotten FDA's attention. Knowing that the necessary immediate step to action was for FDA to convene its scientific advisory committee and reevaluate existing policy, we called for that step and we got it. So in November 2019, Consumers for Dental Choice brought a team of 15 experts to testify at the FDA Advisory Committee meeting. Our team included a dental school dean, a physician specializing in environmental toxicity, a practicing dentist to explain the simplicity of mercury-free dentistry, a pharmacist specializing in toxics, 4 attorneys, including yours truly, advocates from nonprofit groups focused on children's health, environmental justice, Native American rights, elected and appointed city and county officials, and more.
Other nations who joined Minamata have moved well beyond what FDA currently recognizes as their obligation to protect citizens here from mercury. We feel the government has a responsibility to its citizens to act to protect them.
As a practicing dentist who serves a diverse community, I assure you that we have mercury-free materials and can meet the individual needs of all our patients.
We believe that when we have a known toxicant that is continually released and bioaccumulates in the body to add to all of the other sources of mercury, and when we have a safer alternative that's widely used because it's preferable and affordable, then we must protect those who are most vulnerable to the health harms of mercury, especially low-income children and children of color. We call on FDA to immediately phase out the use of amalgam in pregnant women and children and to advise against public funding of amalgam for any use, as these programs serve the most vulnerable of our patients.
Mercury amalgams pose unnecessary and very preventable risks to our children's health and development. The Children's Environmental Health Network strongly encourages FDA to ban dental amalgam placement in all children, pregnant women, and breastfeeding mothers. FDA should also provide all consumers with full information about the health risks associated with amalgams, as well as require dentists to provide this information during consult. And dentists should be required to offer consumers the choice of mercury-free fillings. Finally, we encourage FDA to work toward ending all placement of new dental amalgam in the U.S.
My concerns are scientific and ethical. The neurotoxicity of mercury, the absorption into the body of mercury from amalgam, the conversion of mercury from amalgam into methylmercury, compounded by the pre-existing disproportionate rates of neurodevelopment disorders in children of color, and the probable disproportionate use of amalgam in African American and Hispanic children poses a public health challenge and a public health ethics dilemma.
I ask you to reconsider the position on the toxicity of mercury and follow the example of lead. After many years, we're now realizing that there is no safe level of lead. How many lives are you going to sacrifice before you realize that there is no safe level of mercury exposure to humans? If it's so harmless, then why is it that when the mercury fillings are removed, it looks like a hazardous waste site where the dentist has to protect herself, where the patient has to protect herself, where there's a mouth dam put into your mouth, where there's a respirator on your mouth? I just wonder, how can you possibly think something like this is so safe when removing it is so dangerous?
We know we have a problem with heavy metal with mercury contamination. It is no longer acceptable to assume small or even trace amounts of mercury is tolerable when it comes to the health of our most precious population, our children, especially when there are other harmless options for amalgams. The canary in this coal mine died years ago.
Third concern, only patients and not dentists know whether they are already exposed to mercury from these other sources. But polling shows that patients do not know about amalgam's mercury content. So absent patient labeling or patient warnings, neither patients nor their dentists are in a position to discuss, much less assess, whether mercury from amalgam is too much to add to their body's pre-existing mercury burden.
We know, and FDA acknowledges, that mercury vapor causes brain damage. We know that mercury vapor spikes when we place silver fillings and when we take them out. We know that unborn and young children might be especially sensitive to the harm caused by mercury vapor.
I'm off to the Minamata Convention on mercury next week. I'd love to be able to say that a panel in the United States is calling for strict action as is going on around the world. Thank you. Consumers for Dental Choice and the experts we organized had an impact on the FDA Scientific Committee. Here's what it concluded.
I think that the evidence is there because we can show an exposure and we know the behavior of these neurotoxicants in the developing brain of children.
But it seems like if a product came on the market today that said it's 50% made with a material we know is highly toxic, and we're only going to use it predominantly in disadvantaged populations, we wouldn't be having a meeting. You know, FDA would not approve it without a meeting.
My feeling is that mercury containing amalgam
should probably be on its way out.
I think everybody would agree that mercury in the body isn't a good thing. I see no reason why it shouldn't be phased out as quickly as possible.
The trend seems to be that when there are alternatives available to the use of mercury, the general direction should be to move away from using mercury-containing amalgams and towards non-mercury-containing products to help with dental restoration. I think the panel generally feels that there are risks, there are gaps that exist with regards to dental amalgam, primarily relate to a lack of communication to the population at large, whether by the dentists or by the FDA or by our society at large, as to the risks, the potential risks of mercury-containing amalgams, and potentially more specifically in vulnerable subgroups like children.
Now the question became, would FDA listen to Consumers for Dental Choice, to the advisory committee, to the science and scientists, to the Chicago Declaration signers? Would FDA step up and protect the public from amalgam? We got our answer on September 24th, 2020, the watershed day in the history of our movement, probably in the history of American dentistry. Our 3-year campaign succeeded. FDA issued its safety communication calling for the end of amalgam use in major categories of people, what they called high risk, all children, pregnant women, breastfeeding women, women planning to become pregnant, people with neurological disease, people with kidney disease, people with mercury hypersensitivity, mercury allergy. If you add up these broad categories of Americans, you're talking certainly well over 100 million.
I think we all know that no government policy is just self-enforcing. For it to work, it takes an engaged, active, and outspoken citizenry.
Consumers for Dental Choice continues to reach out to the public and the dental schools and to the institutions of our country, but also continues to work with FDA, urging FDA to simplify and promote what it did. And I commend FDA for its open mind, because FDA is continuing to find ways to reach out to the public. Most importantly, they issued infographics, simplified version of a complicated safety communication. Then early in 2021, at our request, they issued infographics in Spanish. We're also sharing FDA's new amalgam policy with our international partner organizations at the World Alliance, with other country governments, with other policymakers to strengthen the Minamata Convention on Mercury's treaty requirements. In this way, FDA has become a significant building block toward our ultimate goal: no more amalgam use for anyone. Nobody should have mercury implanted in their mouth. We couldn't have gotten this far, and we can't go to the finish line without your support. And we want to thank the donors who have helped us get to this point and have stayed with us. We so appreciate the gifts we receive, donations. The scientists too, the dentists, the mercury-free dentists, worked so hard and stayed in this fight. The consumers who were active in this cause, the nonprofit groups we ally with. We have a wonderful team of people in America and around the world that has been a great pleasure to work with. If you'd like to learn more about us, you can certainly go to our website. Also, you can find a mercury-free dentist there. Our website is toxicteeth.org. If you're not yet getting our announcements, you're welcome to sign up for them by going to toxicteeth.org. Consumers for Dental Choice and the World Alliance for Mercury-Free Dentistry move forward to create a mercury-free nation and a mercury-free world.